In this lesson, we're going to go over the shape tool that is on top of your toolbar in After Effects. And we're going to see how we can make shapes, color them, see how we can create different shapes, and how the shape layers work. And then we're going to learn how we can use those shapes to make mask layers, which we can then use those masks to apply them on different footage. So I'm going to start by creating my composition, or else I cannot do anything. You can see that the tools are grayed out because I don't have anything to put them on. There's no composition. So we need to create a composition. Just hit the new composition right here and then name it whatever you want. I'm going to name it shapes. Hit OK, and now we have a composition. And you can see that the tools are now available for me to use. So the shape tool is up here next to the pen tool. And if I want to quickly access it, all I need to do is to just hit Q on my keyboard. And you can see it became blue and I now can draw my shapes. So to draw a shape, we would just click on any point and then drag it as big or as small as you want. And you can see we have a shape layer 1. So I'm going to delete this and then I'm going to start again. Delete this layer as well. Notice that there is a star next to my cursor that indicates that I'm going to be making a regular shape. Now at the end of this lesson you will see that there will be another option and another icon next to our cursor. But in order to know that if you're making a shape or a mask layer, you could easily look at what icon is next to your cursor. So right now it's a star, and star indicates a regular shape. So if I want to make a perfect shape, you saw that when I made my rectangle, it's not exactly a square, and I can make it as big, as long or as thin as I want it to. But what if I wanted a perfect square? It will be hard for me to guess where I need to stop and whether I have a perfect square. So a way to create that perfect square is to just click away from this, to hold down Shift on your keyboard and then click and drag. You can see that now I am just starting from one corner and the sides are all equal. Unlike the first time where I didn't hold down Shift, I'm going to do it again. I'm not holding down Shift. You can see that I'm able to just go anywhere and make my shape as big or as small as I want it, and the sides are not equal. Alright, so if you want to make a perfect shape, all you have to do is hold down Shift on your keyboard and then click and drag to make your perfect shape. I'm going to delete these two layers. And that was the rectangle. There are obviously other choices for shapes, and to cycle through them, one way to do that is just click on that shape layer and then hit Q to cycle through the shapes. You can see we have a star, we have a rectangle, a rounded rectangle, an ellipse tool, polygon, and that's it. So if I want to cycle through them, I can also hit Shift Q. You can see that it's the same thing, or you could just hit Q, whichever you're comfortable with. Alright, so let's look at the other shapes. We have a star. I'm going to click and drag it, and I can, while I'm holding it, I can rotate to rotate my star. So I'm clicking, dragging, and then circling to choose the right angle for my star. And again, if I hold down Shift, I am making a perfect star. Although with this shape it wouldn't really be helpful. In this case we are only creating the shape from one corner, whereas the regular shape, when we're not holding down Shift, I can rotate it around, but when I am holding Shift, I cannot do that. I'm going around and it's just standing still. So if you want to choose a right angle for your star, don't hold down Shift. But if you want to rotate your star, maybe make it like this, then you wouldn't hold down Shift. But if you wanted to stand still, you would just hold down Shift, then let go. You can see I have a bunch of shapes here, but they're all in one layer. So in shape layer 1, we have the thing below it, which is contents. If you open that, you can see that we have each of these stars listed together. So polystar 1, polystar 2. And if I wanted to move this layer, let me hit V on my keyboard to get the selection tool. I'm moving the entire shape layer, so that includes all of my stars. But what if I wanted to move only one star? It would be hard to guess which number was this star, and for me to go over each one, it's going to be time consuming. So if I wanted to move this star, just simply double click on it and it will move to polystar 2 or whatever number it is. Then I can move this around and you can see that it's still in that master layer. So if I let go again, I am moving everything. If I wanted to move one singular shape, like this one that's overlapping with the rest of the stars, all I need to do is just double click and then move it around to any place that I want it. So that's how you single out a shape that is within a singular layer with other shapes. And I'm going to delete this. We're also going to look at the other shapes. So I'm going to hit Shift Q again. We did the rectangle. We have the rounded rectangle, which just means that the sides are round. You can see that, let me let go, click away. We zoom in, you can see that the edges are rounded. And unlike the first rectangle, we can create these round edges. And again, the same thing applies to this guy. So, whoops, let me go back to rounded rectangle. If I hold down Shift, I'm making a perfect square, or just a square. And this time it's rounded. But notice that I made two different shape layers. That is because usually when you're on the first shape layer and you create another shape, it's going to end up in the same master layer. Just like how it was with the polystar, now I have two rectangles in one shape layer. But if I wanted a separate shape layer, all I need to do is just click away and then make another shape. You can see that I made another layer, and this time my third rectangle is not with the rest. So if I hit V on my keyboard and I move these guys are separate, and so is this guy. But if for some reason I wanted to move them all at the same time, I can just do that by clicking on that shape layer. And this would be helpful depending on what you're doing. Maybe you want a set of shapes to move differently from another set of shapes. So that's how you'll end up making two different layers. But if you had, let's say, 3 stars and you want them to have the same style, the same movement, then it's better to put them in one shape layer to make things easier for yourself. I'm going to delete everything, hit backspace. Let's explore our other shapes. Shift Q, we have the ellipse tool. Again, if I don't hold down Shift, I can make it however I want. If I hold down Shift, I will make a perfect circle. And again, it's in the same shape layer. Delete that. Let's look at our other shapes. We have a polygon. And again, the same thing with the star. If I don't hold down Shift, I can go around to choose the right angle. But if I hold down Shift, it's going to be still. But currently, as you saw, we can only create a polygon. And there may be times where you want maybe a hexagon or maybe a triangle. And there is a way to alter the number of sides that your shape has, and we can do that in After Effects. So in order to choose the number of sides that my polygon has, I'm going to first delete this layer so we can see things better. I'm going to go on my polygon shape, click and drag, but before I let go, use my up and down arrow keys to add. If you're going up, you're adding. So I'm adding sides. If I go down, I am removing. So now I have a square. If I go one down, I have a triangle. Then again, I can rotate my triangle as I like. And once I let go, I have a triangle. So if I do that again, I'm going to have a triangle. So if I want my polygon back, I do use my up arrow key to just add on sides until I have the right shape. Then let go. Alright, so this applies to all the other shapes as well. I'm going to hit V on my keyboard, double click to move these guys a bit to the side. I'm gonna hit Q again and hit Q to get my star. And then the same thing applies. So I'm gonna click and drag, and then before I let go, hit the up arrow key to add spikes, I guess. Go down to remove spikes. So again, we're gonna end up with a triangle. If we add, we're gonna get this ninja star shape. Kind of keep adding, you would get this kind of an explosion shape, maybe a sun shape. And again, if you rotate, and I'm not holding down shift, by the way. If I'm circling around the shape, I can change the angle. If I scale it in or out, I am changing the size. If I hold down shift, I can create the same shape that I just created, but in a more strict manner. So I cannot rotate it because I'm holding down shift. If I let go, I can rotate my shape. Okay, I'm going to hit V to double click and move these guys to the side. And if you wanted to rescale it after you've created your shape, all you have to do is just drag, click and drag one of the corners to make it as big or as small as you want. And if you hold down shift while you do so, you will do it in a more equal manner. So just remember shift, it's for that perfect scaling. And if you're not holding down shift, you have more control. All right, let's explore the other shapes. I'm gonna go on, hit Q. I'm gonna go on rectangle. Now, a rectangle does not have this option. So if I open this, not let go, and go with my up and down keys, nothing is happening. So this does not apply to our rectangle shape. Neither does it apply to our circle shape. So if I click and drag, go up and down, you can see nothing is happening. So if you wanted to alter a shape, you could only do it with the star shape and the polygon shape. So you can't really do much with the circle, the square, or the rectangle, or the rounded rectangle. Let me just show that to you guys as well. Hitting up and down, nothing is happening. So you can only do it with the polygon tool and the star shape. Alright, so let me close and delete all of these guys so we can get into the next thing. So if I have my rounded rectangle, I'm going to click, hold down shift, click and drag to make a perfect shape. I have a square now. I'm going to click away. What if I wanted the edges to be more round? I don't want them to be this minimal. If you go in the shape layer, right now we only have one rectangle. If I open my rectangle, you can see we have some options. And we have some fill and stroke options, which by the way are up here. In fill, you can change the color. If you click it once, you can change it to whatever you want. If you have an image in another layer, you can get the eyedropper tool to select any color that you want, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to choose like a bright blue, hit OK. Then we have a stroke option. Right now it's on 0 pixels, which means there is no stroke. So you can see it's on black, but we're not seeing anything because it's 0 pixels. If I click it once and maybe put in 8 pixels, click away, you can see we have a stroke now. And you can also change the color of your stroke. Click it once, you can make it red or any color you want. And if you don't want to enter a number, you can just, you can see the cursor has these 2 flashes on either side. You can make it bigger or 0. So So you can choose your number, or again, you can click on the number to enter your desired number. I'm gonna go with 0 for now. Alright, so in the rectangle 1, we have the stroke option, which is just the blending options. And we're not going to get into that, but if you go in transform rectangle 1, you can see that we have some options. This is position and all of that. I'm going to open transform. We don't really need that either. So transform rectangle 1 is about the shape itself, but the transform below it is about the contents in that layer. So we already talked about this. If I click this, turn on my stopwatch on position, and then move it here, because I want it to start from here, and I'll move in a few seconds, move it here. We have a simple movement with our square. But we're not going to get into this. We're more focused on the shape. So I'm going to open rectangle path 1 because that's what we came here to do. In rectangle path 1, you can see the size is written and the roundness is at the bottom. So if I want to kind of select the shape, select my rectangle. If I want it to be more round, I can just click and drag it. And I can also click on the number to add a specific number, maybe like 50 pixels. And this also has a stopwatch next to it. So if I want my input in the center, if I want my shape to start from being a regular square with sharp edges, I'll click the stopwatch and let me move the keyframe a bit back. And then in here, I would like bring it to maybe 62. You click away, you can see that it goes from sharp into rounded. So if you wanted to change how round you want your edges to be, you would come in here, but you can't do this with a regular rectangle tool. Make sure you're on rounded rectangle. You delete this and also the layer. All right, so we also have these options for the other shapes. Let's explore them. Gonna hit Q, go to the circle. The circle doesn't really have much options. I'm gonna open ellipse 1. You can see that if you open ellipse path, you just have size and position. Not much you can do with the circle. And we also have the same options for transforming, and also we can change the fill color and the stroke. This applies to every single shape. So not much to do with the circle. Let me delete the circle layer. Gonna hit Q again to go to my polygon shape. Now the polygon can be altered. There will be some options in the layers. So I'm gonna just hold down Shift to make a perfect shape. Let go. Hit V to drag it to the center. I'm going to choose a more vibrant color. All right, hit OK. Now if I go in Polystar 1, Polystar Path 1, we have some other options. So the first one is type. You can choose whether you want it to be a star, which you could do up here as well, or if you want it to be a polygon. I'm going to stick with the polygon. You can choose the points. You can make it 5 or 7, whatever number of sides you want. Change the position, you can rotate it, and also change the outer radius, which you could also do by dragging one of these corners if you want to change the size. But the most important thing for the Polystar or the polygon shape is the points. So you would add as many points as you want. If you go all the way to 3, it's a triangle. And if you go to like 10, you can see we have 10 sides. Let me add a stroke so it's more visible. There it is, 10 sides. All right. We also have the same options. If you want to work with the stroke, you can also, here you can just add a color and the pixels, but down here you have more options. You can change the opacity of the stroke. You can see that if it's at 100, it's vibrant. If it's at 0, then it's not there. Change the stroke width, which we can also do up here. We have a line cap, and you can make it rounded. But it's not going to work that well here. I'm going to go with the butt cap. And we can add dashes. So if I add this, you can see that it becomes dots. And you can choose how many dots you want. So if it's at 0, it's just a regular line. And if you keep increasing it, there will be a lot more space between each of these lines. So that's if you wanted like a shape stroked with dotted lines, you would choose the amount of space, amount of dashes. You can also click to enter a specific shape. I'm going to turn it to 0. You can add some wave if you want. You can see that I'm adding waves to the stroke. Doesn't really look that well, but it could come in handy for maybe a fun little project. I'm going to go back into shape layer and to remove the amount because I don't want any waves. I want my regular stroke back. Alright, so these are just some things for customizing your stroke. I'm going to close that. We also have some options for fill. And it's mostly the opacity, the fill rule, and just some things that we will get into with our tutorials. For now, the thing you should know is how to create a shape and how to customize the shapes that you have created. I'm going to close that off. Let's move on to our star shape. I'm going to make a star. This is the last shape that we made, so it had it saved. But if I want to go back to a star, you can just click and drag before you let go. Hit the down key to remove sides from your shape until you have a star. Then I'm going to let go, hit V to drag it down here. Right, and go back in. I'm going to open Polystar 1, and we have the same options, but for stars we have the points. So right now it's on 5. We can do the same thing we did with the arrow keys, but down here you can go to a triangle or a star or whatever shape you want. And here you get to choose whether you want to work with a star or a polygon, which is the same thing up here. The position, rotation, and the size. If you want to make it like a bloated star, which in the end would just turn into a polygon. Or if you want like a star like this. That's the inner radius. The outer radius is just the outer lines being stretched out, or if you want them to be like small like this. Inner roundness, it's the roundness between each point. And if you go all the way to 0, you can see that it's getting distorted. So you would choose how round you want these lines to be on the inside. Outer roundness is the same thing, but on the outside, so you can end up making a flower and then adjust the inside to make it look better. And yeah, just a few customizable options for you, so you can make the shape that you want. Then close Polystar 1. In stroke, we have the same thing. Color, opacity. You want the lines to be dotted, you can do it here, which would be the dash. So if I turn it on, you can see we have some dots. You can customize it here. I'm going to delete dashes. We can also add waves, like we saw earlier. And we have some taper options, which you can see that it's basically an animation of your shape being outlined. So you can see there's a stopwatch. If I started from here, it would start from this area, and if I ended at like 6 seconds, it will like outline my shape and then end at that point. We will get into these later. And we have some fill options, which is the same as the polygon. I'm going to reset my, go back here. We have the taper option. I'm going to hit reset because I want my regular stroke. close this off, you can hit M on your keyboard to close everything. And that's how you make your custom shapes. Now, there's some other things that we need to do when you want to create a solid background. Maybe you don't want a shape, you want the background to be lime green. So it would be a little time consuming. Let me delete these. It would be time consuming if I just grabbed a square and I made it like this. And I have to go back in here, change the colors and all that. An easier way to do this is to go to Control, hold down Control or Command on Mac, then hit Y. It's going to open solid settings. You can name it whatever you want, and in here you would change the color. Let me choose this, choose the width and the height, hit OK. Now we have a solid. Another way that you can do this is to go on Layer, New, and then go to Solid. It's the same thing, but that's another way to access the solid. And solids are basically just backgrounds for you to work with your shapes to create mask layers. So I'm going to move this here. And before I actually get into this, I forgot to mention something. Let me hit Control Z to undo. When I create a shape, let me make it a square. You can see that the anchor point is in a random spot. It's not in the center of my shape. And let's say if I wanted to rotate this square, I will hit R on my keyboard to get rotation. You can see that it's rotating from almost the edge of my shape. And that's not looking so pretty. And if I wanted to change that, it would be time consuming because I have to go in this guy and then just drag it to where I'm guessing would be the center of my shape. And that will just end up messing up my animations because nothing is centered. And this applies to all the other shapes. If I draw let's go back to a circle. If I draw a circle, you can see that the anchor point is not even on the shape. So this can be a bit annoying for you to always grab this guy and then move the anchor point to the center. And obviously, we wouldn't know where the center of the shape is unless we zoom in and spend a lot of time trying to center our anchor point. So there's this setting that you need to change to avoid this. Go to Edit, Preferences, then go to General. And here After Effects actually gives you the option to avoid this. So we're in the General tab. And if you come down to Center Anchor Point in New Shape Layers and just check that, the issue is solved. I'm going to hit OK. So now whatever shape I create, let me hit Q, it's going to have a centered anchor point. You can see that the anchor point is in the middle. Whereas this guy, we moved it here. If you guys remembered, it was somewhere around here. But now whatever shape I create, let me choose a star. The anchor point is going to be in the center. There it is. So that way I can avoid the issue of dragging the anchor point to the center. Let me delete these. Let me draw my shape in the center. Hold down Shift. Alright, so I'm going to draw it here so we can see. Hit R on my keyboard. You can see that it's rotating from the center. And that applies to other shapes as well. Let's go to a polygon. We can drag, centered, hit R, it's rotating from the center. And this will just save me a lot of time when I'm trying to animate. Okay, let's get back to the solids that we're doing. So again, hold down Control and press Control for Windows, Command for Mac, Control or Command Y to open the solid settings, or go to Layer, New Solid. So this was a shortcut. You can go to Layer, New Solid, choose a different color. Let's choose something that's really different. Hit OK. All right, I'm going to move these two. I'm going to hit V to get my move tool and just move this guy a bit down. So now we're going to work with mask layers. Now remember the thing I said earlier in the lesson that you need to look at your cursor when you're using the shape tool. So if I go on it again, I'm not selecting any layers. It's going to have the star, which means I'm creating a regular shape layer, as you can see. But if I am on the lime green solid and I'm on the shape tool, you can see that the cursor now has a different icon next to it. And that is the mask icon. So that means that I'm going to mask out everything except for the things that are in the shape. Right now I'm on the polygon and I'm on a layer. If I click and drag, I'm only showing the part of the lime green solid that fits into my shape. You can see. And if I hit V, I can move my mask everywhere else. So my lime green solid is now masked out by this shape. Let me delete that. Actually delete the mask. So I'm going to open this, delete the mask. So there is my shape again. You go do that again in the center. I'm on one layer, make a polygon. And the same thing applies to other layers. I'm going to go to deep blue solid 1. You can see the cursor has the mask icon. Click and drag. I now have, let me do it in a proper way. I now have 2 mask layers of my solids. I'm going to hit V and move this guy a bit to the side. And because these are not shape layers, you can see that the anchor point is again in one corner. And as you saw, you can also alter your shapes because these are no longer shapes but mask tools. I can scale it in or out, flip it the other way, and just do anything I want with my shape. Now, masks are really helpful in After Effects. We will obviously get into the more practical side in other lessons, but for now, all you need to know is that it's like you're covering everything except for whatever shape you drew on that layer. So under lime green solid 1, if I open mask right here, I have a singular one, which is this polygon. If I open that, you have the option to make a mask path. So I could tell After Effects to mask it out for me here and then move it here. We have the opacity. If I make it less, it's no longer there. 100, it's completely there. You can expand your mask layer. You can see that I'm just adding it and it cuts out where the solid ends. So if you remember that I brought the lime green solid below, so you can see it gets cut off here. Gonna remove this. We can feather out the edges. See, the edges are feathered out. And you can add the mask shape. So if I move it like a little bit to the left, it expands to the right. Sorry, I expanded it to the right, not the left. So the path would work like this. We turn on the stopwatch and move the guy here, maybe here. Although that would be the position. So if I want to make another mask path, I would just go on this guy, make this like maybe 500. So you saw it came back, and you can see because of what I entered, it's going to kind of get smaller. You can see that it's fading towards the right. And because I have the stopwatch on, it's going to be a little motion for me. Let's delete that. And let's also remove the feathering, hit 0. And that was just a quick overview of masking and how it works. Below that, we also have some regular transform options. So this is where I would move things. So I'll turn on my position stopwatch, go to like 2 seconds, bring the mask layer here. You can see that it moves. And remember, these are not shape layers, so you notice that I don't have the option to change the stroke or the fill colors, because the color is determined by the layer that I created the mask on. So I created a solid with the lime green color, so this mask will have that color forever unless I change things here, which we won't do. Let's delete everything. So that was just a quick info on the shape tool. It's going to be really handy for you. And now that you know how you can create shapes, you can get into just some basic animations and also learn how to mask things out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. I will see you guys in the next one.